You remember KBR? They were the subsidiary of Halliburton back in the day during the Iraq War. Halliburton, of course, was Dick Cheney's former company. In fact, Dick Cheney received $34 million when he left Halliburton to become vice president of the United States. I'm sure that didn't color his thinking on any of these government contracts at all. Just as a wild coincidence, while he was vice president, Halliburton happened to get $31 billion in work orders from the United States government. Well, some of it they screwed up, including poisoning some of our troops in Iraq with chemicals that we're going to explain to you in a second. But as it turns out, well, you look at that, they got indemnity, so that if they screwed up, we'd have to pay for it. And the indemnity is also secret. Now, look at this Huffington Post report. The public doesn't know what the indemnity agreement actually says because the military considers it classified. Until recently, the veterans exposed to the toxin couldn't know either, nor could attorneys at the Department of Justice who were left battling the contract in the dark, according to a source there. Now, finally, we did have some justice here. KBR lost the case, have $85 million they have to pay, and that was in the case of some National Guard out of Oregon. There's more cases pending. And they have $15 million in legal fees. The problem is they're going to stick us with the bill. Well, one of the guys who sued, Rocky Bixby, had this to say about what they did in regards to the toxins in Iraq. They said there were soldiers that actually brought it up and asked what it was. And they were told that it was a mild irritant at first. And then they found out, of course, that was not the case. They had this information and didn't share it, he says, that it was really dangerous, of course. And he says, I'm dying now because of it. And by the way, shortly after that deposition, he did die. So this is very serious. They did this to our troops. Now, the lead attorney in that case was Michael Doyle, and he joins us now. Michael, this is an unbelievable case in so many ways. First of all, can you just explain to us what the toxin was and how did it poison our troops?
Sure. It's hexavalent chromium. It's actually the same toxin in that Aaron Brockovich movie. And it takes so very little, either breathing, getting on your skin, to cause all kinds of problems. It's an incredible carcinogen. It was in the wind. It was in the dust. It also does really nasty things to any tissue because it's such an acidic type chemical.
And what did they say it was, and what was it for, and was it worth killing these people? I mean, what was so important about it?
Well, the Iraqis, and this was actually the second no-bid, cost-plus award fee contract they were able to grab from the government, both before the war and this one, and then they added on this indemnity after. And the Iraqis, as clearly was evident, had been using this for decades as an anti-corrosive. It does a really good job when you put it in the pipes to clean out everything so they could pump down water to bring up oil. And that was what was so important about it. There's a lot of uses.
Now I get it. It was to get the oil. Okay, well, I didn't know it was that important. Okay, well, then a couple of people die and they happen to be our troops. Well, I guess that's a sad day for us because they don't even wind up having to pay for it. So how in the world do they get this indemnity? And doesn't that give them basically carte blanche to do anything they want, be as negligent as they want? Because who cares? The government's going to pay for it.
Well, you know, the veterans didn't know about this add-on indemnity. That we found out kind of once the case got going from the testimony of a KBR lawyer that they had actually gone in within days of getting this no-bid contract and demanded and got this bailout that no matter who they killed, whether it's soldiers, coalition, Iraqis, anybody, they were going to be able to, even with willful misconduct, dump it on the government. And we knew about it from that deposition, that testimony. It wasn't part of our trial because, as you might expect, if you're given a chance to get this bonus for doing something really quick, and you also happen to know that no matter who you do it to or who you poison, who you kill, you can dump it on the taxpayers, it might have some effect on how you do business.
God, if we had any justice in this country, we'd find the executive who authorized that and throw his ass in jail. But instead, we have the exact opposite. We have to foot the bill. And then on top of that, they had insult to injury by saying, no, it's all secret. How in the world could it be secret? How could they not let the Justice Department lawyers not see the indemnity agreement? That makes no sense.
You know, it is something that until, let's see, more than 9 years later, it was classified. We couldn't see any reason why it wouldn't be something, because it's not certainly top secret now, but it was not declassified until just a couple weeks ago. And then when the Army produced it, they stamped it with a classification that says that we're not allowed to share it outside the suit, at least so far, even with the Department of Justice at this point.
So if the Justice Department lawyers were to see what was in the exact indemnity agreement, then Al-Qaeda would win. I mean, it's an absurd argument. So how many more cases are there here? And is there any chance that we get real justice in that putting the bill where it belongs on KBR?
You know, I think, that whole indemnity bailout suit has just been filed by KBR, where they're saying not only do you have to pay for all we've handled or all we've done, there are actually 150 more veterans of Muhammad Ali, including the families of Colonel Gentry, who's passed, and Sergeant David Moore, who also died from his contact, that are still awaiting trial.
Right.
And at this point, KBR has taken the position that you don't just have to pay for whatever we're responsible for, willful misconduct, but you got to pay for all our lawyers at whatever rates we've charged. Every expense we've incurred.
All right, Michael Doyle.
As long as we drag it out.
Yep, Michael Doyle, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back.